Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Does Metal Have Soul podcast. I'd love to tell you what episode number this is, maybe 7?
7. Mm-hmm.
And today we are going to be talking about the mighty Lemmy Kilminster from the band Motorhead, and we will also talk about Hawkwind, but we have lots of stuff to do before that. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Levi Clay, and I am here with my bodacious assistant.
Bodacious!
I'll pick a different word each week, why not?
I quite like that, bodacious. I'm fine. I'm here. I don't have my jacket on this week. I'm already regretting that decision. But you know what? I have my blanket on. And I also have one of my favourite... You've got a great t-shirt on today. The Brover t-shirt. But I also have my Tom Waits t-shirt that has...
Ron Perlman
on it. And I remember posting that on the YouTube channel when I first got it, like on Community. And at least 2 people were like, that's not Tom Waits. And I'm like... That's the joke, you fucking asshole.
Yeah.
So
some people are silly, but
how are you?
I'm good. I'm playing lots of Hades and practicing the piano. I don't know why, because we go out and do gigs, with me playing the piano, and they're just a shit show. Not because of us, but because of everybody else involved.
Never because of us.
Never because of us. We had a gig last night. I don't know why I'm telling you this. You know this. You were there. Maybe you weren't. Maybe you disassociated. And it's the only way to get
continue,
through
but I absolutely disassociated at several points during the whole thing. It was
gig last night. Rocked up as usual. Big venue. Probably fit maybe 500 people in that room.
Easy 500.
Yeah, really big fancy venue. Big stage. There's a big grand piano on the stage. They've got loads of kit. Like it's set up for performances. They don't have a sound man. And they never have a sound man. And we've told them, when we're on, we need a sound man. And we checked when we went in, where's the sound man? When's the sound man going to be here? And they're like, oh, yeah, he's here. And, half an hour after we were due to start, still no sound man. And by, I think, about 50 minutes after we were due to start, they said, oh, sound man will be here in half an hour. It's like, bitch, we're only playing for 2 hours.
It's not even the worst part of it.
No, the worst part of it was at 10 o'clock when the next act showed up because we were double booked and he was due on at 10.
That's not even the worst part of it either.
Is it not?
I mean, that's still pretty fucking bad. But there was a guy who turned up.
Oh, yeah.
There was a guy who turned up. And, I know that some people might view my YouTube and think, Melissa's probably a bit of a loose cannon. She's probably maybe borderline unprofessional. I'm never unprofessional. I am the queen of learning everyone's name and always being professional.
What was his name?
Graham. Ha! In your face, bitch. But he came up to me and he said a combination of words. The worst sentence being, now because when I turn up anywhere, if there's other professional musicians or sound engineers, I always assume that they know what they're doing.
Yes.
I never walk up and act like everyone's an idiot. Why?
That's a fair assumption.
Because that's a terrible attitude to have in a professional setting.
Yes.
He said the sentence to me, without knowing me, is it the desk that you're struggling with? And I swear to God.
It's so lucky that he said that to you and not me.
You were out of earshot.
I would have drop kicked from the stage.
But that's the thing, honey boo boo.
Yeah.
He never would have fucking said that to you because I was there in a bright red shirt with curly hair and a bun, and he took one look at me and made a bunch of assumptions, as we all do as humans.
Sure.
But one of the assumptions that he made is that I don't know what I'm fucking doing, and I said to him, I was like, "There's no sound engineer here. We have at least 3 instruments on this stage, not including pedals, and we're expected to be able to get levels from an extended stage from out there."
Yeah. This is an elevated 4-foot stage.
and he went on to talk about how sound engineers cost money, and I'm like, they do.
Yeah. I mean, it just baffles me. There are so many that's like going up to punters in a restaurant and being like, "Oh, you want your dinner, do you?" Well, chefs cost money. It's like, yeah, you're running
get your fat ass in that kitchen, mate. Your own fucking burger.
You're running a fucking restaurant. You should have a chef. You're running a live music venue. You should have a fucking sound engineer, you dumb fuck.
Here's the thing, right? Scotland has an abusive relationship with live music.
Oh, I thought you were going to say alcohol.
Well, alcohol as well, but particularly with live music. And I think one of the things that we all, because I do think as a lot of musicians that watch this, I think as musicians, we need to sit down, we have a circle time meeting and understand that whilst we as musicians are not all directly responsible for the decline and destruction of live music, but unfortunately, the fucking call is coming from inside the blouse. The enemies are already in, and they are people like that guy last night who was a legit sound engineer, as far as we know, who asked me why I needed a sound engineer.
Yeah. You can actually paraphrase what he said. When he came up to you and said, is it the sound desk you're having a problem with? You could paraphrase his question as, what part of my job are you having a problem with?
Yeah.
Why are you unable to do my job for me?
It would be the equivalent of me turning around to him and going, so you're struggling with singing a C6? What's, like, can't you just find, like, it costs money to hire people to do that? I don't understand what your issue is.
Yeah. And,
it just makes me so mad, and I just think sometimes as creatives we should just all get together and gang up on these people, but the horses have fled. It's too late.
They're so rooted in like termites into the industry in these cushy little jobs. That I say cushy, they're not well paid jobs.
Yeah, but he's still floating around doing fuck all, being like, why is nobody doing my job for me?
Exactly. He's floating around doing fuck all, being generally incompetent. But management are just like, well, he said that everything's running fine, so like you must be the problem. And they can't see the rot that they have employed, and it's just rot after rot after rot. It's biased bookers that only book their mates at the expense of the venue. So you go into it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you think of your local music venues, smaller ones especially, there will be some that you will think of and you go, I just have the same shite playing every single fucking night. The same one guy with an acoustic guitar singing the same. It's like they all share a fucking set list.
They do, and I think it's our responsibility. One of the things that's been levied at me my entire career is that I'm difficult, and I think the only reason anyone's ever called me that is because I've never, in a long amount of time, I've never really stood there and went, oh, that's fine, because as far as setting an industry standard for being paid, I've never been amazing at that. But the one thing I have always been really good at is setting an industry standard for behaviour and treatment. And I think if we're all not collectively doing that, we're absolutely fighting a losing battle. But I still think it's worth doing. I think it's worth being called difficult to know that guy who kind of ambled up to me and acted like I had just asked for something really big and important when I'm just a plebe. I think it's important that those people learn quickly from other people as well, that actually you're the shithead, mate. No one else is the shit. You're collecting money from a venue will end up not doing live music anymore, and you're doing it happily.
Well, there's the other issue, of course. This is a musician thing. I won't name who was on after us. He's a lovely guy. Like, I like him a lot. And actually, if we'd waited for the sound engineer to show up, we wouldn't have got playing. So what happened was he showed up for what he expected to be his set, but obviously we were there, and he set the sound up for us because he's used to using that desk, and he could go out the front and check levels between us, and that was really, really wonderful of him. But then he said to me, actually, you're saving my ass a little bit because I'm steaming. And it's like, oh, so you've just rocked up to this gig just completely drunk. You're just, okay. And then he just sat there for an hour and watched us play, and he was a great audience member, but he just sat there and drank more pints and then went to get up and do his job. And it's like, oh, you're welcome to do that as as an employee, as an independent contractor, but venues and bookers need to be on top of shit like this, because ultimately, if you want your audience, the people that come into your venue, to consider your venue to be a professional establishment, you want to hire professionals. And being professional is what we do. We show up and we put on a good show, we engage with the audience, and they remember us. And it's just tragic to me that every audience that we play for, they remember us and they're like, oh, you were really good. We'd love to come and see you again. And we're like, well, good luck, because we can't guarantee we'll get booked again, because unfortunately fucking Billy Big Balls is just booking fucking Cunty McCuntface to come in and play Oasis songs on an acoustic guitar again. But
they all do it, and the thing is, the reason that we won't get booked the same amount of them is because we're difficult, and then it's really a choice. We have to make a choice in that. We have to go, okay, well, if we're compliant and we just turn up and we just do the sound ourselves, which will inevitably sound like shit, we'll just play the same songs as them. The problem is, and this be the bottom line, Mary, we still won't get hired as much. Do you know why? because I'm a girl.
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be people
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
that
yeah.
and going, no, Melissa, you're being hyperbolic. I don't think it's that bad. Trust me.
No, it is. It is.
It really is.
Yeah. Because we know the bookers that book for venues like this. And I said it to the manager. I was like, your booker is the problem. I said, I don't know. I don't come in here and see who else is playing. But answer this question for me. How many women do you have playing in here?
And
she thought about it and she went, oh, there is one that we have in occasionally.
Haven't seen her for a while, though, was the answer.
Yeah.
It's really sad. I think Scotland, I think any music industry area that's densely layered with musicians and venues also has a problem with the cultural issues they have in their own society.
Yes.
So with Scotland, alcohol is a big problem. And whether or not Scottish people want to admit it, misogyny is a really big problem in Scotland. Always has been. Up until even just the 80s, domestic violence was a real issue in Scotland. Like, it just wasn't uncommon for most women to be beaten by their partners because of alcoholism, but that was still a problem.
And football.
And the football, of course, and sectarianism and all that bullshit that goes on in Scotland. And thing is, I became a musician to be happy. Yeah. And for the most part, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone watching this and getting it twisted. I'm not digging trenches. And I did sort of consign myself to a life of digging trenches at one point because I thought, I'm not good at anything.
The only thing I will argue with you on is you said we're difficult. And I just don't agree. People being difficult is all perspective. There are some people that I've worked with in my side of the industry who would consider me to be difficult. And there are other people that I've worked with who consider me the easiest person that they've ever worked with because I will take the reins, I'll take control of the thing that needs to be done, and I'll do it to the best of my ability. But if I find myself in a situation where I can see there's a lot of fat that needs trimming and things are being done inefficiently, I'm not afraid to say to the person running the show, this person is taking the mick out of you. They're robbing you. You're paying them to do a job, they're not doing it. Yeah. So we are only difficult to the people who are not doing their job correctly, and they see us as a threat because we are. Because if I had my way, I would get involved in all of these businesses and I would root out the inefficient people that are helping to contribute to the destruction of live music, and I would make these businesses more profitable. So the business owners, we're not difficult for them. They love us. They would love us if they could sit and have a conversation with us, see how passionate we are, see how much we want to put in of our own time and effort and money into advertising a thing so we can create and build a thing and have a community event. They'd love us. But unfortunately, you don't get to have those conversations because they've got fucking Johnny Mac, the fucking incompetent old Bruce Springsteen wannabe, just booking his mates. And that's just how it is. And you don't get the opportunity to speak to the owner because Johnny's in charge. And yeah.
I mean...
Oops, did I just name names? Whoops.
Who cares? Who cares? Who literally cares? Like, what's going to happen?
Aye.
Are you going to not hire me less than you already do? That's not going to happen, Mary. And it's just, I think being a difficult person is a chewy one. This is also always comes as a shock to people when I say it. I'm not a confrontational person. I really hate confrontation. But unfortunately, as I always say to Levi, it finds me every single time.
Yeah, it does.
I'm really good in a confrontation, not because I want to be. I am an introvert who learned to be an extrovert because she had no other choice. She wasn't given another choice. So when it comes to being difficult, I don't think I'm as brash as you in that kind of setting. I think you're quite happy to be like, what's the fucking deal, bro? Whereas I'm a bit more like, why do you think that happened? It's very rare that I'll do what you do, but it is a symptom of caring.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Jesus! I'm just out here being like, I care about my job and I care that people have a nice time and I care that it sounds the best that it can. Why are you finding this to be some form of roadblock?
Yeah. Why is this an inconvenience?
Why is this a problem? Like, if you were a heart surgeon, you're like, I just want to make sure that you won't drop dead the minute you leave the table. Oh, well, actually, no, I'm on the clock here, Mary. Like, move it along.
Yeah, speaking of moving it along, Metalhead Musings? Actually, while you look for those, I'm going to speak to the audience. So if you're watching this podcast, whilst you're looking for them, if you're watching this podcast, we very much appreciate that. Please do leave us a comment in that comment section below. We read every single comment and we engage with the comments. It allows us to create more content that we can come up with and talk to you. But also, I think we're this 7 episodes in. Viewer numbers aren't where we want them to be. being realistic, viewing numbers aren't where we need them to be for the long-term viability of the podcast. So if you do enjoy the podcast, please do take a second to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and ideally share it with somebody. Tell somebody. Just tell one person about the podcast, and then we promise we'll be here forever.
And if the answer, because I have asked a couple of people for feedback, and so far no one's given me any real feedback. If the feedback is, Melissa, shut the fuck up, do tell, because I'm not sitting here being like, oh well, if your feedback isn't you guys rock, then I don't want to hear it. No. If there's something that you think's really chewy and not good,
then I'm actually not interested in your feedback if your feedback is how good we are, you know. I mean, or how much you enjoy it. I'm not saying I'm not happy to hear it.
So difficult.
But I'm saying that if there are aspects of the podcast that you don't like or things that you think that we could tighten up, I'm not saying that if you tell us we're going to change them, but hearing that feedback, if we hear enough of the same feedback, you know, because we did have one person on my Discord said that he doesn't like all the cuts in the podcast. He says it feels unnatural and it's not how the Guitar Souls was. And I'm not really up for changing that because the nature of all of the cuts that we have in the podcast mean that it might take away from the flow a little bit, but it gets rid of a lot of unnecessary ums and ahs, spaces in the conversation. It stops a podcast from being an hour and 40 minutes. Instead, we get it down to about an hour and 10 minutes. So we're doing it to save you time.
I'm also a liar. I did get feedback from the lovely Martin, and Martin said that he feels that it was too long and he would like something at 30 or 40 minutes.
Well,
and
I
did say to Martin, I was like,
we're already 16 minutes in.
Shit. Also, if any of your feedback is that you would like me not to drink on camera, get fucked. Not get fucked. I have to or I'll die.
All right, what have you got for us?
Okay. So, Jalcabri 5904 says, love Rainbow. So what if Richie was difficult? He made great music.
Did we not establish that the most successful Rainbow songs were written by someone else?
We did. Also,
did Deep Purple not do fine after he left?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
are Blackmore's Night very successful?
No.
The medieval band?
Please tell me they're not.
No.
Oh, it was so bad. I think I liked that one for a couple of reasons, but it was also like the definition between difficult and a stark, raving, mad narcissist.
Sorry, I know I refer to Blackmore's Night as like a medieval band, and obviously genres don't exist. I apologise.
Let it go, Mabel. Yeah, I read that and I was like, well, I do think there's a bit of a difference between being like, no, I'm not going to do this unless it's done right, and going, no one ever left Rainbow. People were only fired. Yeah. And I'm going to go forward and be like, these people were amazing. I give them all the credit, but also they're trash and I had to sack them for not trying hard.
I understand what he's going for there, and I don't disagree with him.
Yeah, okay, I should be clear. Like, thank you for your comment. I'm not shitting on your comment. I'm shitting on the idea that maybe...
You can do both. You can write lots of great music and you can be a shithead, you know? And you're allowed to like somebody or like their music even if you think that they're a shithead. At some point in this show, when we start talking about the 80s, we are going to move on and we are going to talk about Megadeth. Now, I think that Dave Mustaine is a raging shithead in terms of the way he treats people that he works with. That's well documented. But he's still Dave Mustaine, and he still has been at the forefront of Megadeth for the entirety of their career, and he played guitar on and wrote All of Rust in Peace. Therefore, I'm not going to give him a pass for his shitheadery. I'm going to say he writes amazing music, and he's a shithead.
Yeah.
Richie Blackmore wrote a lot of great music. He's a shithead.
Yeah, the disconnection between, like, people... Can you hear Rover snoring?
Yeah.
The disconnection between, like, sometimes people hear that someone's talented and then, or they love their music and they can't sort of mush up the idea that they actually are a shithead. And we have a lot of discussions on the channel about it, between whether or not to take the art away from the artist or how to, you know, disassociate those two things. And I think it's a tricky one, but I think doing what you do is a good idea, just to be like, yes, James Brown happened to be part of the inception of a really fantastic brand new genre that then went on to be the father of some of the greatest music of our time. But he was also a drug addict shithead.
Well, I'm going to go for the most extreme example, of course, which is going to be Lost Prophets. Not a band that I was ever a fan of in the slightest.
Lost Prophets?
What?
Who's Lost Prophets?
The singer was a So if you think the Lost Prophets wrote some good music, let's say you were 14 years old, Lost Prophets, I can't even name any of their songs. If you thought that they wrote some great music, it's kind of like this, right? If I pick up this is Magnet from Troy Grady. I can look at this and I can say, this is a red piece of plastic. This is a red piece of plastic. This is a red piece of plastic. Same with if you like a piece of music. This is a good piece of music. I like this song. This song makes me happy. This is a good song. If I then find out that this red piece of plastic, it's still a red piece of plastic. It is still a red piece of plastic. Nothing about it has changed. Your perception might change, but nothing about it has changed. So I would, with Lost Prophets, I guess it would be unfortunate to find yourself in a position where you've ever said Lost Prophets have some good songs. That's fortunately a position I've never held. But if you've, for years and years, felt that Lost Prophets wrote some really great songs, and then suddenly the songs aren't great because the person is a
Can we stop saying? I think
still a red piece of plastic.
I think it's tricky because I think that, bad behaviour is on a sliding scale, up or down.
Which is why I went for the worst human imaginable.
Well, that was what I was going to say. There's a slight difference between, James Brown beating his wife.
Yes.
And,
Ian Watkins.
And is that his name?
Yeah.
I'm so glad I've never heard any stories about them. That sounds horrific. But yeah, we have that discussion. It is really hard.
I assumed that was something you knew about. If I knew that you didn't know that, I would have encouraged you to do a Lost Prophets reaction on your channel by now.
Oh yeah, that would have went down really fucking well. Jesus Christ. I still find out things about, like, people go in the comment section around bands that I've done reactions on and be like, oh, did you know that such and such, killed the entire nation of Uganda? And I'm like, no, I didn't.
Any other Metalhead Musings?
Yeah. I fear this one might send you into full meltdown. So recently on the channel, I did a Sleep Token video on my day off, not raging about it at all. And Infamous Dominion says, Sleep Token don't write songs, they create arrangements. Now, in a way, those are two... Wait. In a way...
I just feel that we should join in with this guy if he's going to be smelling his own farts. We should give him a sniff as well.
No, he was making a point.
Yes.
And we're also assuming his gender. the scandal.
Was that the extent of the comment?
Yeah, but I've got a follow-up for it. He's basically talking about the difference between songwriting and composition.
Yes.
Which, they're absolutely two things. I don't think Sleep Token are making huge compositions. They're not composing. They are writing songs. There is crossover for sure because they are trying to bend the gender... Not the gender, bend the genre of what they're doing.
It'd just be easier if we acknowledge there's no genres.
But a lot of people, and there's too many to name specifically,
yes,
came in to point out to me that it was in fact Gabby Rose who played the saxophone at the end of Sleep Token.
That's not true. That's not true. And I will die on that hill. That is not a saxophone with a microphone in front of it. And if it is a saxophone, it could be... So we talked about this. It could absolutely be an iwi, electronic wind instrument, because I know in your video you talked about it being programmed, and I immediately took issue with you when I was listening back. I was like, oh, it's not programmed. It's not like somebody sit and click this through. I felt that it had been played on a synth, because that was not an acoustic saxophone recorded with a microphone. I guess, all right, there's maybe an element where I could be wrong on that. You could record an acoustic saxophone with a microphone and have a shit ton of compression on it, so there was no dynamic variation in it, and you could also use pitch correction after the fact to make sure that everything was in tune, like bang in tune. But no, not a saxophone.
I think for me the one thing that kind of stuck out, and it was kind of like the way I said about Ronnie Radke singing hip hop in a hip hop setting, despite the fact they went into this weird busted punk pop thing at the end of that song, is that if you're going to choose to genre bend or include other genres, I think do it respectfully, which I do think Sleep Token do. But I think the one thing that kind of annoyed me in the comment section was everyone's talking about how amazing the sax was. Now, whether it was played, programmed or whatever, it wasn't a great solo.
No, it wasn't.
And if you did that in jazz, and even if you did that in a grassroots jazz venue, everyone would be like, oh, okay, well done, but then secretly be like,
this is the thing that really ground my gears as the week went on, because
do you know what really chaps my ass?
You said you were going to get a lot of people commenting about the saxophone and that you were wrong on it, and it's like, motherfuckers, do not come here to us and tell us about the saxophone, because this is probably the first time you've heard a saxophone in music, right? This is the genre of music you listen to, and the genre of music that we listen to is full of horns. Your album has a full horn section on it, right? We listen to... There are very few musical ensembles that we listen to that don't have horns in them.
Yeah.
You know, so horns are something that we know great horn players. We've recorded horn players. You know, we were driving back from our gig yesterday, and what did I unwind with? Joshua Redman, a saxophone player. Like, so for people to come to me and be like, oh, no, that's, I mean, this is the first time I've, heard a saxophone being played on anything, but that's definitely a real saxophone because this person said that they played it.
Well, it was that, and it was also just people talking about how astonishing it is. And I don't want to take anything away from Gabby Rose, especially because she's a female musician and in a metal setting, for fuck's sake. So I want to be like, you better work, Gabby. Get out there and you make that bank. But also, if this is a really bitchy thing to say, but I'm gonna say it anywhere. If you played the phrase, the melisma phrase that sax did at the end of Sleep Token in a studio where you were working for me, I would have went in there and went, I'm sorry, are you doing an infomercial for a 1980s car warehouse? What are you doing?
Yeah.
It just said, which is really, really like catty, but it just is one of those things where I'm like, oh, I'm never going to win because I don't know enough about metal to speak confidently and sort of go, no, this is not correct. But unfortunately...
But you do know enough about horns.
I do, but no one gives a fuck.
But
no
you can always stick to your guns on that one.
I'm stick to my guns.
And you should, in the same way you should stick to your guns with the Disturbed fans. Like, you know more about vocals, you know more about auto-tune and pitch correction.
I stick to my guns when it comes to Disturbed fans.
And you can stick to your guns on this one.
I call them crybaby bitches all the time.
Is that the last of the...
That's the last one. I had...
Okay. What news you got for us? I'm trying to serve Martin here by having a podcast that's 40 minutes.
Martin, we're going as fast as we can.
Even though we've been here for 28.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Moving quickly. This one made me laugh. Tool announces their beachfront destination festival.
That's already happened.
Has it?
So we'll talk about that. So Tool, I assume it was the same thing.
9th of March 25. Sorry, I didn't realise it was out of date.
Yeah. So Tool organised their own festival. Mm-hmm. This was the show that Mastodon were on, where Brent Hines pulled out of playing.
Yes.
And our friend Ben Eller.
Ben Eller?
Yeah. Uncle Ben.
I met Uncle Ben at the Woodshed guitar experience in Tennessee, and he was so funny.
Yeah.
And so lovely.
Surprisingly short.
No, he's not. Am I misremembering? I don't remember him being super short.
Yeah, you're misremembering.
Oh well, yeah, it was just very sweet.
I guess nothing is surprisingly short to you because you're like 5'1".
I'm literally 5'3.5".
Anytime somebody says half in their height, you know they're lying to you. Anytime someone adds a half inch in there, it's because they're trying to appear taller than they are.
Listen, at least
Mel's
I'm
a pocket person.
Wearing Cuban heels. Actually, I do wear very big heels.
So yes, Ben Eller filled in with Mastodon. Not entirely sure if he's doing everything with those guys. The fun thing with that festival is that Tool fans were booing Tool, and there's talk of a class action lawsuit against Tool, right? Because Tool did a set on the Friday and the Saturday night.
The audience are suing Tool for being shit.
Yes. So, but we'll go for this. Or wait for this. They did a set on the Friday night and a set on the Saturday night of the festival, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
They played the same set both nights. I think there was one song difference in them. The second night set was shorter, and it's alleged that the reason that set was shorter was because Maynard James Keenan stopped the set early because the band were being booed. Like, you can't be doing that. Like, who's going to travel to a Tool festival? Your biggest fans are going to that. You know, people paying $5,000 to travel and for accommodation, and
course.
You know, because Tool are such a big and influential band on that scene. So if you're a huge fan of a band like that and you hear that they're doing a festival and they're going to be playing 2 consecutive nights, you'd be like, oh yeah, let's throw down for this, because who knows how many cool deep cuts they're going to play. No, they're going to play the same set twice.
Astonishing.
astonishing levels of laziness.
If you're doing a festival that you've created, it feels lazy to go, fuck it, let's just do. And that decision will have been preceded by fuck it. To do the same set both nights. I don't know. I'm not Tool. I think Tool are great, but also that's bad. That's bad show. That's bad show. To be like, oh, we'll do the same set both nights and shorten the next night because we're getting booed. Like, why are you getting booed?
Yeah, you need to reflect upon why you're being booed, and it's a level of short-sightedness that I can't fathom. Because as soon as you start to get booed, if you understand why you're being booed, you can turn to each other and be like, right, let's change up the set. You know, let's call some songs and we'll just play some songs. But they wouldn't have even been aware of why they were being booed, which is, yeah, fuck that band. I've never been installed, so it's easy for me to say. Yeah.
I think Maynard has got some really cool songs. I really enjoy their music videos because they're stop motion animation, a lot of them, and yeah.
Right, what else you got for us?
Okay. This one was a bizarre one, but we're going with it. Scour guitarist stands up for Phil Anselmo over 2006 Dime Bash incident that's not who he is.
We've talked about this extensively. I don't put any I don't like Pantera and I don't like Phil Anselmo, but I personally am of the opinion that clip of him is widely debunked by Phil and people that know Phil.
Okay.
Not as in the clip isn't real, but as in, like, so Phil grew up in impoverished black communities. That's where he's from. Like, that's his people. And I think, unfortunately, well, I know that as a society, when we see blood in the water, it's so easy to jump in and just be part of the piranhas, if you like. I have to take the angle I do on this because the alternative would be really, really, really depressing. The alternative would be Phil Anselmo being a neo-Nazi, wants to exterminate black people type guy, and yet they still play the Hydro and the metal community go out and support them in droves. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to live in a world where that is the community.
You may be living in it.
We might be living in it, yes, but I would like to think that we're moving towards a better space with things. You know?
I think that Gen Z and Gen Alpha have got some cool ideas about moving forward in the world. I've seen some very modern metal interviews with very young metal artists and fans, and it all looks very interesting and sounds very cool. So yeah, I do think there's some weird standards in the metal community that I still don't agree with.
Well,
or like.
It's an entire genre of music that is powered by testosterone. So it is though, isn't it? Like that's it. It's
yes. It's. I watched a video. We're getting side quested again. I watched a video about mosh pits and about the expression within them and what they mean and all the rest of it. And there was lots of different discussion about it. And one of the things that someone did, they quoted a female poet, and it really annoys me. I can't remember her name right now. But one of the things she said was that men create these things so that they can touch each other, not in a sexual way, not any of these things, but they do that so they can interact with each other in a way that unfortunately society has created this weirdness around. You couldn't, for instance, go up to Mike and just give him a kiss on the cheek. That would be considered bizarre. But no one would flash an eyelid. No one would care if I, for instance, went up to Hayley and kissed Hayley on the cheek. Hayley would get the immediate gay panic. But do you know what I mean?
I think she'd like it.
I think she would. Yeah. But do you know what I mean, though? And yes. And it's kind of sad. And I watch it and I don't know. There's something in all the chewiness of metal between. It is absolutely powered by testosterone and it is absolutely powered by rage. But I also feel like in a kind of vulnerable way, it's powered by the need to express your gender and your maleness in an emotional way that's not going to get judged harshly.
Maybe, but I don't want to go in a mosh pit, and there are lots of people at a metal gig that don't want to go in a mosh pit. What else? What other news have you got?
That's all the news I've got.
Oh, okay, all right, cool. So let's move on. We are going to talk today about one of the precursor bands in the new wave of British heavy metal, Motorhead, and a little bit about Hawkwind. So what can you tell me about Hawkwind and Motorhead?
I can tell you nothing about Hawkwind. I've never heard of them.
Okay.
Motorhead, as some of you know from watching the channel, I only have one experience with. I worked in a British shoe shop called Clark's when I was very young. I was a teenager, in fact. And for back to school, which is roughly a period of 6 weeks, they played their theme song for back to school, which was the Ace of Spades by Motorhead. And they played it constantly, repeatedly, all through every 8-hour shift I had for 6 weeks. And I worked there 40 hours a week. And by the end of it, I genuinely think it gave me a little bit of like a tick. Not good. Not good.
It's a shame because Ace of Spades is a good song. It's a good tune. It's got a good vibe to it. The production on it is good. But it highlights that overexposure to a thing can turn a good thing into poison.
Absolutely. I literally, as soon as I hear the first like, I'm like, I'm like, get fucked. I'm leaving. I hate you all. Burn it to the ground. Start again.
Well, we're going to start today by listening to Ace of Spades.
No,
we're not.
I can't. I literally can't.
Okay, what can you tell me about Motorhead?
I know that Lemmy is an alcoholic wizard. He has many moles.
Yep.
He's
dead.
Is he?
Yeah.
But he appears to be quite a funny character in that he's quite eloquent in a lot of the things that I've seen him in. Like, in a very working class kind of way, you know what I mean?
Yes.
He's not quoting Shakespeare, but he's still very poignant in a lot of the things he says. I know that they are doing thrash.
Well, lots of people are going to argue over that, aren't they? So if you look at again, Wikipedia is not the source of all information, but it has their genres as heavy metal, hard rock, and speed metal. I wouldn't think of them as thrash, but then lots of people in their early days would think of them as thrash. My dad thought of them as a punk band. You know, it's just.
Oh, okay.
And it comes back to the idea of it's not important. The genres aren't important, but having terms like this helps other people to understand. You know what a band sounds like.
Yeah. Other than outside of that, I don't know much else about Motorhead. I have avoided them like the plague because of Ace of Spades, because I just can't.
Okay, well, let's learn. So, Motorhead were an English rock band formed in London in 1975 by bassist and lead vocalist Lemmy Kilmister. So this is Kilmister, not Kilminster. There's no N in there.
Okay.
But, I don't know. I think most people put an N in there. Kilminster.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Anyway, guitarist Larry Wallace and drummer Lucas Fox. Lemmy was also the primary songwriter and only constant member. The band are often considered a precursor to the new wave of British heavy metal, which re-energised heavy metal in the late 70s and early 80s. Though several guitarists and drummers have played in Motorhead, most of their best-selling albums feature the drummer Phil Taylor, or Animal Taylor, and Eddie Clark, or Fast Eddie Clark. From 1995 until the band's breakup in 2015, the group consisted of Lemmy, Phil Campbell, and drummer Mickey D. So, 23 studio albums, most often classified as heavy metal. Motorhead have been credited with being part of and influencing numerous musical scenes, thrash metal and speed metal especially. Lemmy, however, always insisted that they were a rock and roll band, and as is often the case, you know what I mean? Like guys that. They grew up listening to music and they're like, oh yeah, I grew up on rock and roll, so let's start a rock and roll band.
Rock and roll!
And they bring their thing to rock and roll, and they don't realise that the thing that they bring is a form of evolution, and they don't realise that they're becoming a part of the next stage of things. So they just think of themselves as where they came from, and other people think of them as where they end up. Interesting to me. I love this side of music. So he said that they had more in common with punk bands, but with their own unique sound. Motorhead is embraced in both punk and metal scenes, and their lyrics typically cover topics such as war, good and evil, abuse of power, promiscuity, substance abuse, and most famously, gambling. The last being the focus of their hit song, Ace of Spades. Lemmy died in 28th of December 2015 from cardiac arrhythmia and congestive heart failure after being diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Oh.
Yes. The day after his death, longtime members Dee and Campbell both confirmed that Motorhead had disbanded. By 2018, all three members of Motorhead's best-known lineup had died.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Motorhead and then detour into Hawkwind.
Okay.
So Lemmy was dismissed from the band Hawkwind in May 1975 after being arrested in Canada for drug possession. He said that the band dismissed me for doing the wrong drugs.
What?
Yeah.
What's the right drugs in this situation?
Now on his own, Lemmy decided to form a new band called Motorhead. The name was inspired by the final song that he had written for Hawkwind. Lemmy wanted the music to be fast and vicious, just like MC5. He stated his stated aim was to, quote, concentrate on very basic music, loud, fast, city, apparently, a raucous, arrogant, paranoid, speed freak rock and roll. It'll be so loud that if we move in next door to you, your lawn will die.
What a fantastic thing to say.
Yeah, so he had a vision, which
A
is
vision of destruction.
yeah. And so do you see why I want to do Hawkwind? So you can see where he came from. So just briefly, I'll give you a basic rundown of Hawkwind. They actually have a really, really long Wikipedia page. It was an interesting
Where's Lemmy from? He is from England.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, just checking.
Yeah. I'll tell you exactly where he's from. He's a northern lad. He's from Birmingham, I believe.
Birmingham?
He's from Birmingham. Or Stoke. Yeah, he's from Stoke.
Ugh.
Hawkwind are an English rock band known as one of the earliest space rock groups.
Space rock?
Yeah. Since their formation in November 1969, Hawkwind have gone through many incarnations, incorporated many different styles into their music, including hard rock, progressive rock, and psychedelic rock. They are regarded as an influential proto-punk band. Lyrics often cover themes of urban life and science fiction.
Science fiction.
Yes. Hawkwind are best known for their song Silver Machine, which became a number 3 UK hit single in 1972, and they had further chart singles with Urban Gorilla, Shot Down in the Night. The band had a run of 22 of their albums charting in the UK from 71 to 1993, and another 9 between 2012 and 2024. So not going to go into a huge bunch of detail with them, because Lemmy only played with them for 2 albums.
Okay.
So he was with them for 2 albums.
Sure.
The first was Do Re Mi Fa Sol Latido.
I'm so glad that was you that said that.
Yeah. So the rhythm section of Dave Anderson, Terry Ellis was replaced by Lemmy and Simon King, both of whose style differed notably from their predecessors. This changed the band's overall music direction. Lemmy was a self-confessed inept guitarist who used volume and stagecraft to cover his lack of ability. He became a bassist by accident after joining the band, thinking he was replacing Hugh Lloyd Langdon. Lemmy said, I knew the guitarist because he took 8 tabs of acid and then we never saw him for 5 years.
8 tabs?
Yes. However, Dave Brock decided to play lead and continue without a second guitarist. Hawkwind's bass guitarist failed to turn up and Lemmy was available. He said, I learned to play bass on stage with Hawkwind. I go out on stage with this bass around my neck. It was a Rickenbacker too. The bass player, like an idiot, left me his bass in the truck. So I'm learning. Nick Turner says to make noises in E. This one's called You Shouldn't Do That, and then he walks away. This led to Lemmy's very unorthodox technique. Lemmy stated, I don't just play bass like a bass player. There are complaints about me from time to time. It's not like having a bass player. It's like having a deep guitarist.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why don't we go and check out a song from that record. Are you ready?
Yep.
So it's got that, like, punk.
Yeah, like, the singer...
Anti-establishment.
Yeah, the singer's phrasing is dreadful. One of the guitars is out of tune.
Yeah.
The timing is dreadful. But whether it's because of the way it was recorded or, you know, I don't know, the general naivety of the whole thing, it's not without its charm.
Mm.
I would still listen to that in the background and be like, yeah, that's okay, it's cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't forgive a modern band for all of that, but I would probably forgive them.
Yeah. So let's do Silver Machine. This is
Okay.
the most popular song from 72. Also has Lemmy on vocals on this.
Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed that one more. It's fun. It's cute. The sound effect was giving me...
Yeah.
It was making me nauseous. But yeah, Lemmy's voice... He's not a singer. And I know when I say that on the channel, people get out their fucking tree at me. But he's not. But that doesn't mean he shouldn't sing. It just means that he's going to probably be more of a performer than
He's
he
not
is
a
singer.
skilled singer.
No.
But Anyone can sing.
Anyone can sing.
Just like anyone can cook.
Anyone can cook, anyone can sing. I'm a firm believer that anyone can sing. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun. There's a couple of moments in there where I'm like, what's going on? But yeah, it's cute. It also, a lot
Space
of this...
rock.
Yeah, a lot of this earlier stuff, it still has its connection to blues and rock and roll. So I can kind of understand why Lemmy's like, no, I'm in a rock and roll band, man. Because to Lemmy... It wasn't so long ago that he was probably listening to Chuck Berry. It wasn't so long ago that he was probably listening to some of these other artists and being like, yeah, fucking rock and roll, man.
Sure. Right, I'm loading up Motorhead.
Okay.
So you keep talking. What do you think about space rock?
I'm a big David Bowie fan. I'm also a big fan of storytelling. And whilst Bowie's more on the end of pop, I still enjoy hearing people make theatrical storytelling space music. Like fucking Ziggy Stardust, and Elton John did it as well with things like
Rocket Man.
Yeah, Rocket Man. I'm sorry, I completely spaced on the word. Spaced on the word. So yeah, I do. I enjoy it. I think it's a combination of fun music, storytelling, and using the technology of the time to make some cool new noises that people wouldn't have heard before, which is fun.
So talking about Motorhead in their early years, Kilmister said that they used to steal equipment as the band was short on gear. Their first engagement was supporting Glenn Slade at the Roundhouse, London in 1975, July 1975. And on October, having played 10 gigs, they became the supporting act for Blue Oyster Cult. The band were contracted to United Artists by Andrew Lauder, the A&R man for Lemmy's previous band Hawkwind. They recorded sessions at Rockfield Studios in Monmouth. Yeah, the drummer was unreliable, so he was replaced by Phil Taylor, a casual acquaintance of Lemmy's. The record label was dissatisfied with the material and refused to release it.
Oh dear.
Although it was subsequently issued as On Parole in 1979 after the band had established some success. In March 76, deciding that two guitarists were required, the band auditioned an acquaintance of drummer Taylor named Fast Eddie Clarke. Let's take a listen to some of their first album. Okay. So this is self-titled album Motorhead from 1977. This is the self-titled track from the self-titled album. Thoughts?
Do you know, weirdly, the bass at the beginning of that, it felt like a weirdly modern tone. And it's obviously not a modern tone, but obviously just people have copied it from modern bands. Yeah. Not bad at all. Like, tone-wise, not bad at all.
Playing like a guitar player, right?
Yeah.
He played a lot of chords. Lemmy played a lot of chords. Yeah. Rather than on the bass. Just like playing power chords.
They've doubled his vocals in that, right?
I wasn't paying that close attention.
Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure they have. Again, I can still hear rock and roll. I can still hear the blues. Weirdly, Lemmy's vocals in the chorus... his intonation went completely out the window, more so than normal. So I just got a couple of snapshots of Motorhead. But then again, Lemmy was a smoker, yes?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
Brover doesn't agree.
Brover doesn't agree. Smoking, drinking, all those things, they're going to have an effect. So I imagine as we go along, Lemmy's voice are going to get worse. Or better, depending on which way you want to look at it. Yeah, still listenable. Sounds more like punk.
Yeah.
So I think your dad was onto something there.
Yeah, I always thought of them as being a punk band. Maybe that's because, that was what my dad would say. But
sure.
Right, I'm going to queue up something else. My Spotify has just decided it doesn't want to play anything, so I'm having to bring tracks up on YouTube, which is fun. So in July '78, the band returned to the management of Douglas Smith, who secured a one-off singles deal with Jerry Bronze Records. The resulting Louie Louie single, a cover version of Richard Berry and the Kingsmen Standard, was issued in September, peaking at number 68 on the chart. Let's have a quick listen.
68. Oof. Anyway. Oh, yeah.
Remember Ben Ella played this at the Woodshed? Whatever reason, this is what he wanted to play.
Strange young man.
Thoughts?
It's fun. Again, Lemmy is just, he's a basher in the vocal department. He's just a why.
But that's cool, no?
Yeah,
it's like it speaks to the young people that he was making music to. Like, I'm just like you guys.
Yeah.
Any
I'm
one
not
of you could
criticising.
get up here and do this.
And it's fun. It's rough around the edges. It's rough and ready, but it's very listenable. And if it was on in the background in a bar, you'd be like, "Oh, this is a cool place."
Mm-hmm. So the single's success led to Bronze extending their contract, put the band back into the studio to record an album. This time producer Jimmy Miller at Roundhouse Studios. A hint at what the band had recorded for the album came out on the 9th of March when the band played Overkill on Top of the Pops to support the release of their single ahead of the Overkill album. You want to check out Overkill?
Yeah. There is one Motorhead that I did on the channel, but I can't remember what it was.
So you look like you're having an episode whilst listening to that.
Because the melody is so close, if not the same, that...
Oh, sorry, how did that go again? One more time? I think the audience would love to hear that again. I'm just going to keep talking so you can't cut it. How did it go? No, it wasn't like that. It was more like...
No.
Okay. So, compose yourself.
Composing myself.
The Overkill album was released on 24th of March. It became Motorhead's first album to break into the top 40 of the UK albums chart, reaching number 24, with the single reaching number 39 on the singles chart. These releases were followed by the Overkill UK tour, blah, blah, blah. During July and August, except for a break to appear at the Reading Festival, the band were working on their next album, Bomber, which was released on 27th of October. It reached number 12 on the UK charts, 1st of December, followed by the Bomber single, which I like this. It's probably my favourite Motorhead song.
Oh, okay.
So let's take a listen to Bomber.
I can totally imagine people like Metallica's maybe too early, but maybe founding members of bands not dissimilar to Metallica listening to something like this and go,
Oh, big influence.
This is our band now.
Yeah. You get the idea?
Singing about Obama.
It's Obama.
It's Obama.
It's Obama. Yeah, so I like that one.
Yeah, it's cool. He obviously he got comfortable in the way he wanted to sing, and it became something where when we listened to Hawkwind, when he sung the first time in Hawkwind, it was obvious that he was still trying to have quite a melodic voice still.
Yep.
Whereas now he's very much steered into the distortion in his own voice, and it's like, fuck it. Let's do it this way instead. Let's just do it as a more punchy, aggressive.
Any observation on his stage posture? Prevalent here, but he tended to sing up. Tends to have the microphone very high, like he's singing up into it, like he was always stretching his neck when he was singing.
That's some badass technique. That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you see what I mean? That microphone made me feel a little bit high. It's like he's standing as tall as he possibly can.
Yeah, because a lot of singers, when they do stuff like that, if they're singing high and it's not for performance, it's because they're usually jutting their jaw.
Right.
Or straining in their throat and their jaw to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bomber Europe and UK tour followed with support from Saxon, who is a band that we'll probably briefly talk about next week. Stage show featured a spectacular aircraft bomber-shaped lighting rig. During the Bomber tour, the United artists put together tapes recorded during the Rockfield studio sessions in 75-76, released them as the album On Parole, which peaked at 65 on the UK albums charts. Hello, smelly boy. Is he a bomber?
Are you Obama?
On the 8th of May, 1980, while the band were on tour in Europe, Bronze released The Golden Years, which sold better than any of their previous releases, reaching number 8 in the UK singles chart. The band had, however, preferred the title of Flying Tonight in reference to the Bombers' lighting rig. On the 20th of August, the band had a 40-minute filmed slot, along with Girl School's 20 minutes performing live at the Nottingham Theatre Royal for the Rock Stage programme, broadcast on UK television. So they're definitely like picking up quite a lot of popularity to get like proper television slots.
Yeah.
You can see what comes next.
Okay.
During August and September of 80, the band were at Jackson Studios in Rickmansworth with recording with Vic Mail. The Ace of Spades single was released on the 27th of October 1980, preview for the Ace of Spades album, which followed on the 8th of November. The single reached number 15 in the album.
That's pretty good.
The single reached number 15 and the album reached number 4 in the UK charts.
Damn.
The latter being the highest position of the band's history. Bronze celebrated its gold record status by pressing a limited edition of the album on gold vinyl. Motorhead made an appearance at Top of the Pops in November that year with Ace of Spades between the 22nd of October 29th. The band were on their Ace Up Your Sleeve UK tour with support from Girls' School and Vardis. Also made an appearance as guests on the ITV children's show Tiswas.
On a children's show?
Yeah. The Arizona desert-style pictures on the album sleeve and tour cover were taken during a photo session at a sand pit in Barnet. Ace of Spades, considered to be the definitive Motorhead anthem, put a choke on the English music charts and proved to all that a band could succeed without sacrificing its blunt power and speed.
Yeah, I mean, 4 on the album is pretty good going. Especially considering I wouldn't have thought that'd be that feels very much like the kind of music where your parents would be like, it's just noise, noise, get that shit off.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that they married. But then I think with a lot of these bands who are doing rock and stuff, because it's controversial, kids gravitate towards it because of that, and that makes it more popular. You ban something and all of a sudden everybody wants it.
So this is the cool part. Well, coolish. The band had more chart hits in 1981 with the release of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre EP, their collaboration with Girls' School, which reached number 5 in the UK singles chart in February, the live version of Motorhead, which reached number 6 on the UK singles charts, and the album that it was taken from, No Sleep Till Hammersmith, reached number 1 on the UK albums chart in June.
Damn.
So that's a great record.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring it up. So it was their. I wanted to double check that it was their first live album, and I feel it's one of the all-time great live albums. What we should play off here that isn't Ace of Spades. Let's play No Class.
As a general rule, kids, if you cannot create a clear tone with your talking voice, and it's not normal for you, you are in a very bad vocal place. But isn't it so interesting? If he were any other kind of singer, that would have been a real problem. But for this, it's just like, way.
From April through July, the band toured North America for the first time as guests of Blizzard of Oz, an early incarnation of Ozzy Osbourne's band. So yes, people forget this. Ozzy's first solo record was called Blizzard of Oz, but originally the band was called Blizzard of Oz. That was the idea. But we're still able to make an appearance on Top of the Pops on the 9th of July to promote the live Motorhead single. Lemmy had a long relationship with Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, okay.
They wrote a lot of songs together.
Mm-hmm.
A good example would be the song Hellraiser.
Okay.
Hellraiser, the Ozzy Osbourne song Hellraiser.
Mm-hmm.
Ozzy has a version of it, but I don't know if Lemmy recorded a version of it or if it was a Motorhead single. But yeah, they both released that song. They worked with each other on a fair few things,
mm-hmm.
and that's cool. Fast Eddie Clarke left as a consequence of the band recording "Stand By Your Man," a cover version of the Tammy Wynette classic. So, would you like to hear that?
Absolutely. Stand by your man, which is a classic in the Scottish tradition of one singer, one song, where you stand up at house parties and everyone gets a shot to stand up and sing a song, and Stand By Your Man is everyone's choice. I love that. I want that in the background of a movie where some Uma Thurman-esque woman has a baseball bat and she's just beating fuck out of people. That's what I want.
So yeah, it's a duet with Wendy O. Williams of the Plasmatics.
Wendy O. Williams.
And I just love that, Clarke felt that the song, Fast Eddie Clarke felt that the song compromised the band's principles, refused to play on the recording and resigned.
Okay, so let's unpack that just for a second.
Yeah, it's a dumb take.
Yeah, like...
But you take a step back and, earlier in the podcast we were talking about metal and hard rock being a genre of music dominated by testosterone.
Yeah, that feels like it feels like very fragile masculinity to be like...
Yeah. Oh no, we can't play this old country tune and do put our twist on it. Like, why not? This is our this is our sound. Like if we were doing a cover of the song and trying to make it sound like the original, okay, maybe that would be selling out a little bit, you know.
If it's good enough for the Blues Brothers, it's good enough for you.
If Lemmy comes in and is like, I'm thinking of doing like an album of crooning. Let's put out like a Sinatra tribute record.
I'd buy the shit out of that. You imagine? Fucking Lemmy doing My Way. I'd listen to that.
Yeah. I just think that, you know, Eddie Clark was probably wrong on that one.
Yeah.
Because he had the opportunity to make it as Motorhead as he wanted.
Yeah. And it's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I would.
I think there's something wonderfully anti-establishment, you know, about taking a song as well known as that and turning it into what they turned it into there. You know, it's like we know that this was music that our parents would have been listening to a lot of.
Yeah.
And you think back to, I always like watching episodes of The Bill. I grew up watching The Bill. Yeah. And the general people that you see getting arrested in that, the youth, you know, they're all into, this is what they're all listening to, you know? It was a time where that sort of vocal, that very untrained, raspy, like the whole point of this is that I don't know how to do it well. That's why I do it so well.
Well, it was like, you know, my dad listened to a lot of the Sex Pistols and stuff like that, and certainly in the 80s in particular, you know, that was a time of real disillusionment for anyone who was younger, because, you know, you had like the Thatcher years, and you had all kinds of unrest between, you know, different cultures coming into the UK and old jobs being closed down and no one's got anywhere to fucking live. It was just a bit of a disaster. So it feels correct that the music of that time, including things like Motorhead, are, you know, there is working class people making music that is noisy and offensive and in your face. It would feel incorrect if they weren't doing shit like that at a time that was so bonkers. Which
feels both a punk attitude, but a rock, a heavy metal attitude.
Yeah. Well, like, you know, I can't. This is a conversation that you've heard me having with people in the comments section, and be like, people telling me not to get political. Yeah. To quote Skin from Skunk and Nancy, yes, it's fucking political.
Well, I think you go one further than that. Every single song that's ever been written is political. And I'll justify that, right? Because if you're not singing about politics, if you're not angry enough to be singing about politics, then the fact that you're not singing about politics is a statement in its own right. Like, oh, I'm all right with everything. Like, you know, I've got a good life and I don't have anything to complain about, so I don't feel the need. I support the political establishment that we're in. Everything is political. What do you think?
Yes. I think it's hard. I think I would very much like to be the kind of songwriter who writes a lot of political things, and you can argue that certain songs of mine, things like I'm the Boss, is technically a political discussion, or more of a social discussion. Point being is, I think it's in the weird dystopian end of the world time that we live in, having everything be political is exhausting because there's too many political things going on. Whereas at this time, maybe everything's political, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a take.
It's not a position that I've held for more than the last 2 minutes.
I was going to say.
But, you know, when you wrote Redefined,
yes,
the fact that you're not writing about things that are happening in society is a statement in its own right. You could be doing that. You could be contributing to the political fight, but instead you want to not. And I feel that you can analyse that as a political statement of its own. Well,
I would rather write murder ballads because I really am that nihilistic, and I don't think there's any point in writing. I think the use of music as a political statement is somewhat gross nowadays, because we are so much part of a horrifying machine where we pay Spotify for listeners. So it feels wrong.
And yet I can't listen to it.
You can't fucking listen to it. Whereas back then, it was just so much more of a statement.
Yeah.
It was so much more of a statement. It was cooler. Cooler's probably not the correct word, but it was. You know, someone releasing an anti-establishment song now on Spotify feels disingenuous.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking really long and hard about that. Everything being political, and how firmly I can stand by that. But I love in metal. I love bands like Symphony X. Now, Symphony X sing about dragons. Well, they don't. But you put on an album like the Odyssey, and it's Greek mythology. You know, what's political about that? Well, if a band releases an album like that at a time, during a recession where there's poverty and unemployment, and you're not singing about that, and you're not drawing attention to that, and you're not taking up arms, I don't know. It feels kind of political to me.
Yeah. I'm not going to go against it, because I do think that songwriting. I don't want to get into a rant about me and Owl talked about it on Discord recently. I don't want to get into the fact that songwriting is becoming less and less a working class person's outlet for expression.
Sam Fender just came out and said that in the news this week.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
It's too late. I've been
talking about it's a secret in the music industry, but everybody in the music industry, most people in the music industry come from wealth and success, and it's not a line of work for working class people anymore.
No, and this is the thing that I find probably the reason I find it disingenuous when I hear it, because even though I can't necessarily class myself anymore as a working class person, I am from a very working class, poor upbringing, and hearing bands now on Spotify doing songs about the state. There was one recently actually, and it was in Glasgow Live, and it was a band at Nice and Sleazy's who had written a song about austerity cuts, and it was plastered all over Glasgow Live, and they were being congratulated in their wonderfulness and all the rest of it, and they're incredibly virtuous. However, I guarantee you that every boy in that band is from a wealthy background, because they stood on stage with guitars that no working class musician can afford to talk about austerity, and it just felt fucking gross. Yeah. And Al brought it up because he mentioned, "Oh, Melissa, you should play that game. Thank goodness you're here." I played it. It was about the game, the weird little cartoon game. There was a lot of working class accents in minor towns. It was an English game.
Oh yeah. The one that was bananas.
Yeah. But it was wonderful, and I finished it, and it was basically a love letter to working class culture. And I just look at stuff like that and I go, that's beautiful that that's been made in the games world, but unfortunately in the music world, yeah. I hear Lemmy, and I know Lemmy's from fucking dirt, and I know that Lemmy's got a lot of angry opinions about things that really matter, but when I hear a bunch of young lads playing, beautiful polished Gibsons on the stage at Nice and Sleazy's, charging people £15 a head to get in the door to talk about austerity, I'm just like, oh, the asteroid's overdue.
I'm surprised I haven't brought this up yet. For anyone that's still watching and listening, this may be news to you. But my name is Levi Clay, and I am the son of one of the founding members of the band Extreme Noise Terror. And when I listen to Motorhead, it reminds me of that. I understand the music that my dad was listening to when they would go out and be Extreme Noise Terror, who were one of the first and most influential bands in the grindcore scene. I just think that you've essentially said it. There was so much happening in a Thatcher world and a post-Thatcher world. So much going on. Such a disenfranchised youth. Mm-hmm. But they were going out and doing something about it in their culture, in the music, and not much has changed in all senses. Those kids didn't achieve any of the things that they set out to achieve, and the kids of today are still essentially trying to achieve the same things, but they think that they're new at it. They think they've just come up with these wild ideas.
Yeah, and they've got
good luck to them.
I very much take the opinion that if you are really politically charged as a person and an artist, that I do, for the most part, salute you, because I think it's the biggest thankless task for anyone to do. But I do think it's very much evolved in 2025, and it's kind of like what I do when we've talked about this before. It's a radical stance that I take, but if anyone's at a riding room with me on a Wednesday, if anyone chooses to scream political slogans into the microphone, which has happened many times, I stop the act immediately and I lecture the room. I know that, and I know you're like, Melissa, this sounds like a wonderful gig. Why isn't it more popular? No, I do stop.
It is popular.
It is very popular, but I do stop the room and I go, to protest in a room full of people who agree with you is not to protest at all. if you really hold these things dear, go out into the world and find other ways. Become a lawyer and
That's
change
not
legislation.
protesting at that point. It's shouting a catchphrase.
It's shouting a catchphrase, and I don't want to fucking hear it, because I do. And some people have talked to me and been chewy about it and been like, you should, when people shout things like that, you should encourage them. It's like, no, because whilst I'm a nihilist who used to be an optimist. I used to love the world, and I used to protest, and I used to create movements, and I used to go and do all these things, all for nothing. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't. It's just that I can't anymore, or I will unalive myself. But yeah, I watch kids do it and I go, yeah, fuck yeah, but it's such a strange world in music.
Shouting out trans lives matter in a gay bar is
Pointless.
the laziest thing in the world. I would march that person into one of the Celtic bars and be like, go on, shout it.
Mary, the reason that my stance on that started was because I go around to riding room and I let everyone sing. Everyone gets the opportunity to sing. Doesn't matter if you can sing or not. It's a sing along. Everyone sings. And I gave the microphone to a young lad, and he shouted equal rights for women. And I just couldn't.
A young lad said it.
A young lad said it, and I just couldn't help myself because I don't want to discourage people from being political, but he also had a Bearsden accent, and I'm like, so you're telling me you're going to protest in a room full of people who agree with you, and you probably come from a place of private education where you're currently drinking on your dad's dime. I don't want to fucking hear it.
Well, one thing I will say, and it feels like a heated way to end the episode, and I'm going to quickly end the episode after. We are of the opinion that protesting in a space where everyone agrees with you is a waste of time. But to be fair, to stand up in somewhere like Riding Room and to suggest equal rights for women could be seen as a form of protest, because misogyny is pretty popular in the gay community.
Oh, fuck yeah, it is. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
I think there's a genuine feel that, if it's an LGBTQI space, that it must be incredibly inclusive. And no. Gay men are just as guilty as deep misogyny, if not worse, because they feel themselves to be more privileged than a regular heterosexual man to be able to say or do incredibly misogynistic things. No, but I'm one of the girls, don't worry about it. No, you're not one of the girls. Do you have keys pressed between your fingers when you're walking down certain alleyways in Glasgow? You're not one of the girls, boo.
That feels like a nice fun way to end things.
But the thing is, right? I listen to Lemmy and I'm like, I was born absolutely too late, because if I hadn't been as psychotically optimistic and full of, rage for humans and wanting everything
you
to be better.
You probably would have been into this music.
I probably would have been, and it probably would have been amazing. But I was born now and I had to listen to Ace of Spades and Clarks.
Yes. So thank you so much for watching. We encourage you to leave a comment below, hit that subscribe button, and give us feedback. It is all very much appreciated. Anything you want to add?
Thank you as always to anyone that comments. I do read them all. I've literally read them all. Some of them I've not got back to, but I will do my best to get back to everybody. But yeah, just keep watching, share. We've had some pretty low reviews. It would be lovely to get some more further afield. So if you know people who maybe like to listen to podcasts in the background when they're doing things, maybe pass it on to them. And links for everything that we discuss as far as things that we're watching. You can link them in the description.
Cool.
See them.
So until next time.
Suck a bag of Richard. Ooh.